Okay, so with that wonderful introduction, we're going to begin. So, we are the Comitatus, and we are walking with our entourage of people. They are following us, they believe in us, they are here because they rely on what we can give them as the Vagras. So, we are here in this wasteland. You can see a beautiful image here that represents the area that we are walking. So here is where everything starts. Having gone ahead of the column with a handful of scouts, you watch from afar as your Comitatus slowly trudges along broken terrain, making its way south, ponderously among dormant geysers. All around you, the hills smolder lazily in the perpetual twilight. Are you all right? Javik's voice resonates with sympathy as he appears next to you on the ridge. You nod slowly, but do not look at him, your gaze lost in the distance where ash cloaks the horizon and the towering mountains to the south and west. So this is Javik. We can see here a picture of him. We're going to meet him further in the story. But at this point, we know that one guy called Javik is going to be next to us. You turn to your commerce and note his supportive smile. So, someone that is on the Comitatus, it is called a commerce. You and Javik have been traveling the realms together for years now. So this man is not someone that is a strange to us. He is a friend. We've been traveling the wasteland of this world together for years. There is no person in the world you trust more than him, except perhaps yourself. So take a look at this. We trust first ourselves, and then we trust Javik. I know you feel that your hands are tied, but like I said before, you made the right choice by leading us here. What is going to be our answer? I've been pondering about this. So for example, we as the Vagras of these people, especially because this is not the main character, this is just the story of the Pilgrims of the Wasteland. We are someone that is a leader, and we have a little bit of doubts from our past decisions. Javik, just for those that don't know, and I know because I have done this previously in my playlist, as I mentioned in the previous section. Javik is a sorcerer as well, so we're going to discover a little bit of interesting stuff about him in a few seconds. So as I was saying, we are the leader of these people, so we don't want to look weak. But this is Javik. At the end of the day, he is someone that knows us. The last answer is going to be a little bit rude. So I think that the best for us is going to be time will tell, but I still have my doubts. It's a long shot, and you know it. So this is a little bit more related in between them. It has a little bit of intimacy in between them, so I'm going to go for this. Javik nods. True, but it's better than just giving up. The crew agrees to. That counts for something, no? Something interesting here. The crew agrees means that we have been talking to them. So we have been asking if they want to follow the path that we are trudging right now. We know that, and it's good because I like how as long as you read, you discover bit by bit a little bit more. So the crew agrees. That counts for something. So here I believe that the first one The best answer is the first one. It does, yes. Good to know that they still have faith in me as their Vagrus. So we have to realize that if it's not for the Comitatus, then there's no Vagrus, right? So this is a good sign that they agree. They do have faith in you still. Javik says, it should not come as a surprise since you have known and traveled with most of them for years and years. Some founding members of the Comitatus you could trust with your life, but you have heard stories before about Vagri, or Vagri, who have been abandoned for less. So we've been traveling with all of these people for years, not just with Javik, okay? And there are a lot of people that we can trust in here. So let's see, times being what they are, Javik trails off, with Imperials cracking down on us independents more heavily than before. Business is tough, everyone knows, and they appreciate your efforts to keep us afloat. So, okay, this is our business. Being the Comitatus is a business here, and it is just a matter of permits from the Imperials, something like that. Our plan, there's no other option here, or our plan ought to give us another chance.
Battle stations. Battle stations!
I have something around 1 minute to tell you what is Victor's Wargaming and why you should stay here and subscribe. So, what are you waiting for? Subscribe to the best Wargaming channel in YouTube. In this channel I try demos, do videos about turn-based, real-time tactics, real-time strategy, grand strategy, and mill sims.
Impressive.
What are you waiting for? This is the moment for you to subscribe. Let's get on with the video. When the text in an event is highlighted pale blue, it means that you have found a codex entry, and here is where we're going to see the codex. And bear with me because we're going to be reading all of this. The plan. You talked your traveling company into this a few weeks ago. But with each step towards the western mountains, more and more of them started to have doubts, such as the way of the road, perhaps. The plan involves a desperate attempt at squeezing a low selling price for metal bits out of an old contact of yours in the town of Scrapheap. Okay, so that's the plan. We have an old acquaintance in Scrapheap. The Scrapheap is this town with a tower. So let's click here so we can see the codex. This is the infamous codex. It's a collection of entries you find throughout your travels. Entries contain information about the world and its inhabitants. It's a big encyclopedia, in-game encyclopedia, which is fantastic and lovely. When you have unread entries, the crystal on the cover of the closed codex emanates light. Entries are displayed in a list on the left, and you can search entries and filter them by category using the buttons on the top. Unread entries are marked by a blue icon and appear on top, while read entries have a gold icon. The text of the selected entry appears on the right. So, you can close the codex now and continue your journey, but we want to check what is Scrapheap. They have made this amazing lore in here, so we gotta read it. Scrapheap is a town-state on the edge of Imperial territory, just north of the Molten Tongue and south of the Forest of Shadows. So we have the Forest of Shadows at the north, okay, In the Molten Tongue, we have it southwards from the Scrapheap. It has been known for its isolation, the outlandish customs that stem from that, and the wealth of scrap metal they deal in, salvaged from the ruins of the fallen kingdom of Dvendarthar. Okay, so we have a little bit of a description. In the smoldering shadow of the great mountains of the west, Scrapheap rarely sees sunlight, as the skies are forever ashen and overcast. The air is scorching hot and dry as a desert. This is a very useful information because we are here in a very, very hot environment. Okay, hot environment, and a little bit interesting here because the skies are forever ashen. Okay, but the air is scorching hot. Earthquakes are common. Their distant rumble a constant reminder of the region's volatile nature. Most of the time, Scrapheap is engulfed in smoke and ash, and a constant reddish twilight is upon it from the nearby volcanoes. So it's like an industrial zone, I will say. We have a lot of volcanoes. Okay. I think that's the reason we have the so-called twilight, forever twilight, reddish twilight, because of the volcanoes. Okay. Inhabitants must wear scarves and masks to aid their breathing. This reminds me of Dune, right? It looks like it has a lot of inspiration from Dune. Surrounded by a low wall, the town is indeed made of scrap and junk, mostly stone with metal scraps, as well as leather and cloth awnings. A single tall tower stands high above the town on a hill, housing a beacon that aids scavenger teams in their return. Looks like it appears to me that this is a place that it's a mix of Dune with a medieval walls, around it, but instead of I think it says stones here, metal scraps, stone and metal scraps. So it's a mix. But it reminds me as well as to this game Frostpunk. A single tall tower in the center, like a beacon, like a lighthouse, called the Iron Tower. This fortress is home to the town's ruling court, led by its sovereign, a tyrant by tradition. I think you have to be a tyrant here. Other mounds of old scrap and debris from hills around the inner town. These are the warrens, and although they are less densely inhabited, a lot of scrap heaps are holed up in shacks beneath these waste piles in the area that is called the warrens, the poor people. So let's read about the history of Scrapheap. Well, after the calamity is this moment in which the gods, through all of their rage, and they destroyed. It is the cataclysm, They destroyed everything. So well after the calamity, people began flocking to the molten kingdom of Dvendarthar, formerly the ancestral homeland of all dwarves on the continent. That's the reason it's called like this. There are dwarves in here. This is a fantasy world. Let's remember that. They sought to plunder any riches that remained there, especially the rare metal that is still in relative abundance in the confines of that lost realm. Because Dvendarthar is now extremely volcanic and volatile, scavengers did not dare to dwell in it, only in its close proximity. Thus, the settlement of Scrapheap was founded out of necessity. The Molten Kingdom is inside of these mountains, okay? Thus, the settlement was founded. The town is not under imperial jurisdiction because the empire never considered its existence in the savage, barely inhabitable mountainside important. So because of this, it says that it rests on the edge of the imperial territory, and by that it means that it is a free city. Let us put it like this. There's no jurisdiction from the imperials here. So instead they simply let scavenger gangs and comitati, I will say comitatii, gather and sell the precious scrap metal and reclaim ore in one of the border towns closer to Scrapheap. Still, some trade houses sometimes set up a temporary compound there, only to get robbed and driven out months later. Scrapheap was taken over by the infamous Heap King, whose rule saw the rise of the Iron Tower and its protectors. So people moved here after the calamity. They know that there are ore on the mountains, on the Molten Mountains, that were part of the Dwarven Kingdom. Then the Heap King is going to proclaim himself the ruler of this area, and he is going to build the Iron Tower. Little more than a gang lord who organized the previously chaotic and warring work teams into a hierarchy, the Heap King became a legendary renegade whose mockery of a traditional feudal society shaped Scrapheap into what is today. So that is Scrapheap. Stocking up on said metal by spending your remaining coin. So continuing here with the plan, squeezing a low selling price for metal bits out of an old contact on Scrapheap, stocking up on said metal by spending your remaining coin, and bringing the cargo down south around the Molten Tongue to Davin via Avernum and Ash. Okay, this is the place. When we reach Avernum, we're going to reach a completely new thing, but this is different. As you can see, we are getting deeper into the story, into the lore. We're reading everything here. So this is a more in-depth chapter that we're going to be enjoying here in the channel. So here we have spending remaining coin and bringing the cargo down. So we have, this is the amount of coin that we have. By the way, in this world we have the three types of coin. We have the bros, which is the most expensive. Then we have the lirg and the changers. If you want to make one bros, you have to have 10 lirg. If you want one lirg, you have to have 10 changers. Let's see. So we're bringing the cargo down, and we're going to buy all of the cargo here down to around the Molten Tongue to Davin. We have to reach Davin via Avernum and Ash. Let's see what is the Molten Tongue. There we go, the Molten Tongue. The Molten Tongue is the name of a region in the western Xeryn. It is a gigantic, constantly flowing lava river. So the Molten Tongue is a lava river. Okay. Molten Tongue. I'm just doing my notes here. So the Molten Tongue is a gigantic forking lava river that covers a vast volcanic plain and hill region at the foot of the ancient kingdom of Deventarthar. Volcanic ash from the nearby mountains covers the western sky, day and night. Ash and storm clouds gather over the mountains and are lit from below by the fires among the peaks. The active volcanoes keep spitting meteors and liquid fire in the distance. Many small and large lava lakes dot the region, and the ground and stones are either covered in soot or show angry red colors. The giant lava river distorts the air from a distance, from the distance, and closer to it the heat is unbearable. But we are very close. It doesn't say how closer we are. I would be very happy to know what is the distance in between um, the the mountains and all this stuff, because you can imagine all of these volcanoes. So it's like I feel like this has it's like Mordor being put in the middle of Arrakis from Dune, and having this tower from Frostpunk. The history: before the calamity, Devendarthar was the kingdom of the dwarves on the continent, a land unmatched in technological advancements, inventions, and ambition. Because we know that dwarves are these eccentric people, One of the oldest of dwarven royal lines, kings of Devendarthar, were sympathetic to humans and aided them throughout the Second Age, then became fast friends by the Third Age. The inventor kings showed early Imperials the art of metalworking and stone masonry. This looks like Warhammer. In Warhammer, the dwarves also were the first to use all of the iron ore and create all of the technologies that then they gave it to the humans. So they are called the Inventor Kings, show the art of metalworking, helped build their ancient cities, and taught them how to mine ores. Devendarthar was abundant with metal and precious stones, so much so, in fact, that in their unmatched pride, sorry for my voice, I'm a little bit with a problem in my throat. So much so, in fact, that in their unmatched pride, the inventor kings of the late Third Age forgot the wise ways of their forefathers and started refashioning their massive stone fortresses and arcing bridges from iron. By the end of the age, gigantic monuments and vast cities made entirely of metal stood among and atop the great mountains of the west. So you can imagine, all made of iron, metal. Between them, metal roads were erected high above the canyons and valleys. When the calamity hit, the slumbering volcanoes of Devendarthar burst with cataclysmic force and melted the iron cities and roads, killing millions in minutes. Large rivers of lava emerged, the sky became ash, and the air poison. The few that survived fled the kingdom and became a homeless, wandering, disgruntled people with no hope or future. The area east of the mountains became no man's land of volcanic ash and lava. The many lava flows in the central mountains range and most prominent volcanoes merge into a single giant lava river that flows east and travels leagues before gathering into lakes of magma or slowing down and cooling. This river is the Molten Tongue. Not much can live near the lava formations, but that does not mean that fools don't try to travel there every now and then. So he's already telling us that we're fools due to the calamity. Is it that we're fools or we're desperate? The land is cursed to bleed lava forever, so the Molten Tongue has been spilling forth for over 1,000 years. So the calamity happened 1,000 years ago, so it's been a while, basically. So Daven, where are we going? We're going here. Daven is the largest settlement of the otherwise scarcely populated upper central region of the empire and its provincial capital. Today, Daven is almost completely underground, in a series of dark, cool caverns accessible through chasms opening between the spires and the ruins of the old town. Labyrinth-like tunnels and caves give home to many wraiths and others, and due to its position in the changed empire, Daven now has the Emperor's Road going through it, elevating it to a major city and trading post that managed to outgrow its humble beginnings as a shelter by taxing travelers and providing a shelter stop on a long north-south journey. Dwellings are carved into the rock or are attached onto rock walls, but even so, Daven is stiflingly crowded. Light is scarce, most provided by bright kelp. The city is among its greatest importers. Before the calamity, Daven used to be a middle-sized city, and the Emperor's Road did not pass through it. Yet the Emperor chose it as the site for one of his many mysterious projects, the spires, a crown of dozens of blade-like spires made of smooth black metal, reach hundreds of yards towards the sky, occupying another city's worth of area next to Daven after a whopping 20 years of sorcerer's construction. During the calamity, most of Daven proper was completely destroyed, but the spires were unscathed, except that they got buried in rubble about halfway to their tops. Even today, nobody knows what their purpose might have been. Nobody could harm the spires in any way, not even leave scratches on their matte surface. Quite a few people survived the catastrophe in nearby cave systems, but they changed during the centuries spent living underground, and became a new race, the Wraiths. The tunnels they dug under the earth throughout the centuries since is what became the new city. Okay. Let's go to Ash. Ash is a township between the Xeryn Plain and the Jagged Waste, aptly named after the permanent ash-covered plain that it was built next to. The color of the ash-like sleet here is gray, and this material covers most of Ash's streets and low stone buildings. Ash is as far as an imperial road goes in the western provinces, and people claim it to be the last stop of civilization, as people have evidently never been to Ash. A hive of slaver scum and petty warlords barely contained by the small local garrison. Slaver pits and compounds with clay or stone walls surround the town. There is no fort or proper wall here. A small legion garrison is set up in an abandoned compound on the west side. Nobody knows how the approximately 30-mile diameter ash field got there during the calamity, or why it does not dissipate, but it probably has to do with how the wind carries the sleet down south from the ashlands. The town was built and settled by those who stuck out west after the calamity in search of habitable lands. Their dreams faded when they faced the Xeryn Plains, and they ended up giving up and staying in this melancholy place. Ash has always been grey, sad little settlement, but some wanderers and nomads come here to trade. Due to its proximity to savage lands, it has become a slaver town, and the slave market is thriving usually. Therefore, some major imperial trade houses keep well-guarded keep well-guarded villas of their own in the center of Ash. So Ash is the slave city. Ash is the slave city, slave settlement, and the other one that we talked about, Davin. Davin is underground, and it's important. It's an important place. Avernum. Avernum is the regional capital of the empire where the Molten Tongue meets the Smolder Bone Flats. Avernum is surrounded by stone and bone wall, with watchtowers standing every 200 yards. The bones were carried to the site from the Plains of Bone in the south at great expense and are often carved with elaborate decorations. The houses of the city are in cramped lines, forming narrow streets and small plazas. Often plazas have leather and cloth awnings to shield them from falling and slowly gathering ash of the nearby lava rivers. Most buildings are dark brown due to the color of the stone available close by. An imposing stronghold called the Slackford, which houses the garrison and the prefectus in its great hall, was built upon the single large hill of the south side. Large warehouses can be found pretty frequently in the outer districts of the town, along with smelting forges and furnaces. Some buildings are outside the walls, typically inhabited by the poor. Avernum is a capital city, okay. The reborn empire soon moved back to the abandoned Smolderborn Flats after the calamity and found it ideal to settle because of the new resources that could be found there. Salt minerals and even obsidian. Thus the city of Avernum was built at the western border of the flats. Under the control of an appointed governor called the Prefectus, the city mostly lacks the religious apparatus of provincial settlements, but has fairly large military presence. Rumor is that due to its backwater status, Avernum follows imperial regulations more loosely, and it is essentially a private kingdom of the Prefectus, like a viceroyalty of the European powers from the Renaissance and the 18th century. So it is like a private kingdom of the Prefectus, controlling the city from the Slackford. He sends his personal army, the Avernus Legion, to handle his business. Because many Comitatii carry obsidian and even metal through here, there's an unusual density of weapon craftsmen and even blacksmiths in Avernum. One can find several forges and smithies on the main street. So Avernum is the capital. Okay. There is a shortage of metal in Davin, and you know several buyers who would give a pretty price for your goods if you can only make it there before many others with a similar cargo. Such contacts are the boon of the long decades spent on the road. But even if Narbo, that villain, gave you an agreeable price in Scrapheap, the road is not without its perils. Sneaking through the gap between the dead forest and the Molten Tongue is an inviting disaster. The Dead Forest. The Dead Forest is a large woodland area that is counted as part of the Lands of Shadow, situated between the Bronze Desert in the north and the Searing Plains in the south. Forever dark and foreboding, the trees in the glade still stand but are leafless, blackened and look dead. The area is in constant gloom, which is neither day nor night. There is no wind, the stifling air does not move. Black char, the remainder of green leaves long gone, covers the ground everywhere. Nothing lives here and nothing moves except for spider-like beings in the north part of the woods that manage to spin their web so thick that all light is blotted out by them. Whoever touches certain dead trees comes to to an unknown but presumably horrible end. So if we touch those trees, so if someone touch those trees from the dead forest, you die. Legends say that these dead trees still hold a curse that kills swiftly and uncompromisingly, which has made lumbering rather risky, if profitable, of course. What used to be the shimmering woods before the calamity turned into the bleak and desolate place called the Dead Forest, following the cataclysm. Spanning a vast territory the size of a smaller province, the unified woodlands are a shadow of their former selves. The Empire was in no hurry to reclaim the foreboding place, and even today, apart from a few outposts gathering timber, nobody visits the forest. But wait, it says that there is no wind, there is stiff air, and there's black char that the reminder of green leaves long gone covers the ground. Nothing lives here and nothing moves. And it says here, whoever touches certain dead trees, certain, okay. So you don't know at the end of the day which trees are dead. So we are to meet in Scrapheap with Narbo, that will give us supposedly, okay, he will give us, this is just guesswork, I think, the good prices on supplies. The road is not without its perils. Sneaking through the gap, there is a gap between the dead forest and the Molten Tongue, is a disaster, so it's not a path many Vagrii would risk. And of course, if this fails, you are out of alternatives. So this is the path that we're about to cross. Now, do you think Narbo will help us? The old scavenger was never famous for his goodwill, Javik wonders. Okay, so each time that I reach to the decisions, I simply pause, I read the options, and then I unpause, so I know what is going to be my decision. So it's not like I'm just randomly picking it. I will pick the first one, which says one can only hope. I haven't seen him in years, but we always did good business. That said, you are not sure he would remember you or if he is alive at all. I'm sure such sleazy bastards as Narbo would remember all the business they've ever done, Vagrus. Javik rubs his chin absent-mindedly. You have seen this expression of his too often not to realize he's using his sorcerer's talent to read your mind. So I'm going to go to get out of my head, you know the rules. Apologies. Javik rubs his eyes quickly and looks away. You know how it is. It comes to me so naturally that sometimes I don't notice I'm doing it. Your thoughts were loud, Vagrus. I have to actually block them, you see. After joining your Comitatus 6 years ago, Javik proved to be an invaluable asset. Not only does he sense moods and thoughts around him, but he is also able to subtly manipulate others when he focuses his inner energies like a Jedi. It comes in handy when doing business. Yeah, of course. Then there are his other perks. A few times you saw him shatter the minds of men and beasts who tried to kill him. Not a pretty sight, but a very effective deterrence. Yet because he is not a trained sorcerer, at least not in the traditional sense, his abilities are sometimes difficult to control. You have become accustomed to his impromptu thought scans, while others find it less bearable to be around him. For this reason, he has kept his abilities a secret for many years overall, but you can't keep a secret such as this for long in the close-knit community of a Comitatus. Especially not if you keep bursting minds and knowing things you shouldn't. So there are only a handful of your commas who put up with being near him for any length of time. And I don't blame them. But even so, he has not prob he has not probed your mind in years. Certainly not on purpose, but neither by accident. So I think they have rules, right? They have this agreement that he's not going to do that. Perhaps he is less in control, which suggests he is more on edge about this whole trip than he lets on. Okay, this one is interesting because we have the opportunity to be friendly with him, to smile at him, or we can just say, just make sure it doesn't happen again and be mad about it. So I think I'm going to go with this. You grumble as you start to make your way down the ridge and back to the column. A long day of travel awaits you. Both of you head west to join the column. You go back to the Comitatus.
As we were coming up to the gates of Scrapheap, this trash pile town of cutthroats and scavengers, we could see the vast mountain ranges of shattered Bivanda Thar looming ominously over the horizon, half shrouded in the gaseous vapors belched forth by the volcanoes in the far west. My companions prepared to do their business in town as fast as they could, not wishing to tarry in this notorious place.
Of course. So there we go. Another 3. When a Comitatus enters a settlement, you can select from a variety of options, each on its separate pane, revolving around resting, resupplying, and trading. You also have the opportunity to initiate stories located in the settlement. This time, only the story pane is active. Follow the only available story. And this is fantastic because this image is completely different from the previous prologue. The music is different, and I really love the detail here of Scrapheap. It's so amazing. All of these little houses with these small lights, and yeah, it's so immersive, this soundtrack. So here we are in Scrapheap. We can only follow the story, but this is because we are in the Wasteland small mini story. So, at the foot of the ever fuming mountains of fire lies Scrapheap. The infamous town of scavengers, debris and junk are piled into veritable hills, upon and around which the rickety homes of the decrepit inhabitants stand precariously. I like how I'm wondering who wrote this. So amazing. The rickety homes of the decrepit inhabitants. Ash lingers everywhere, and the sun is almost always absent from the twilight skies. The dreaded Iron Tower rises above the town, and its master controls the trade of this forsaken realm's most precious commodity, scrap metal, pilfered from the ruins of the lost kingdom of Devendar Thar. Shady eyes in soot-covered faces watch from under ash-laden awnings. Life is cheaper than iron here, some say. So, thank you for being here in this first episode of Vagrus. And here we're going to leave it for the time being. Just remember that you are not able to save if you are going into the small story, which is the first story before the actual game. Thank you for being here. See you in the next one.